Yeah, if you don't have any doubt, then let us start. Yes, hello everyone. Myself, Harshal Kaneria, and I am a GDS lead of GEC Rajkot. Welcome you all. And this is our second session on Android Study Jar. In the first session, we have covered the Kotlin language, and now we will switch on the Android Studio and how it will work. So please keep joining till the end, and yeah, we are ready to go. And please ask your friends also to join. Uh, okay, I know the exam is there in 14th, but yeah, ask as many as of your friends to join. And shall we start the session, Jeet?
Yes, but even there are way less participants, so let's wait for 2 minutes.
Okay, so let us wait for 2 more minutes and then we are ready to go. One quiz was also there in between. Yeah, so now it's 5 and 5. So, Jeet, shall we start?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so over to you.
Okay. So I welcome you all. So in our first session, we talked about basics of totaling. Firstly, let me say the screen. Okay, so is my screen visible? Hello.
Yeah, it's visible. And guys, do ask any questions or doubts in between by unmuting yourself.
Yes, so I hope that you all have installed the Android Studio on your machines. If you have faced any issue, or if you are facing the issue, then let me know. So I all have installed the Android Studio.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so first we will look into some Android basic terminologies related to it, Android development. Then after we will start with Android development. Firstly, we will see some terminologies like activities, layouts, views, and related to Android development. Okay, so firstly, activity. Activity is a kind of screen which we for application like which provides all the components which we are going to use will be available in a activity. So activity is a kind of screen in which all operation will be performed. And there is a layout. Layout is we can say like it is kind of also view that draws all the views in the viewed groups. And there is a view inside a layout. The views are individual components which are used to interact with it. Like there are various kinds of views, text views, image views. Like if we want to display some text, some paragraph, then there is a text view. If we want to display some images, some videos, with not actually videos, but some GIF images, then there is an image view. There is also a button to various purpose like submitting the form, proceeding further, doing to some other activities. So these are some basic components through which Android application can be made or test. So let's start with our Android Studio ID. So as we open the Android Studio, there will be initial look would be like this. There will be option to new project. From here, we can create a project, and this will be the look when we click on new project. There will be several templates like which are provided by Android internally. Like there is a basic activity, navigation activity. There is a compose activity which is newly introduced in new Android Studio version, and there is various like loading activity for various purpose we can use it. Like if we want to provide authentication in application, then instead of typing all the things manually, we can use all these ready-made templates which are provided by Doodle. And there is also a native C++ library support, which we can use like we are working with some machine learning APIs like TensorFlow and some other custom APIs. Then in such situation, we can use some C++ libraries. And we will be starting with basic simple empty activity. So before creating the project, let's have a look at some other parts. Like if you are in the project, or if you are learning some projects which you might have download from internet, then you can search for it from this open tab. You can create a Flutter project here from here, and there is also a customization tab from where you can customize your ID. There is a plugin section from where you can install various plugins to make your Android Studio more performance based, or to improve the performance, or like for Gradle. And there is also some other options like if you want to clone some repository related to Android project, then you can do it from here. You can just provide the top URL of a particular repository. Okay, so let's create a simple project firstly. So we are creating the simple project. So we have to select the empty activity. Then there will be a name like what you want to do your name for the project. So we are simply using this name, and this would be the package name. Package name is nothing but identifier for our application, which we can use to identify our app. This package is same like this will be like kind of we can say like folder in activity in which our whole file will be created. And this would be the location where our project will be saved. And we can do in Kotlin as well as in Java. And there is an option like minimum SDK. So here we are selecting as 5.1, which means that our app will have minimum support till from 5.1. Means if we try to install this app in 4.1, then there might be some issue. App may not behave properly. So minimum SDK support, I would say minimum support would be from 5.1. And then after we click on finish. Okay, so firstly Gradle will take some time to to create our project. So Gradle is automation tool, automation build tool, which is used to merge our all projects. Like currently we will develop application, we will work on various files. So at the end we need one single apt file, right? So that whole thing will be managed by Gradle. There will be one tool which is known as Android Asset Package tool, which will help the Gradle to create a project by merging all the files in a single unit. So this mostly this will take some time to build the project. So let's wait for it. Okay, so our project has been successfully built. Now let's look at the structure of our entire project. So this would be the structure of our project. There will be a manifest file. This file is we can consider this file as a heart of this project. When we install our app, firstly operating system will look into this manifest file, like what is which is where is launcher activity mentioned, like currently we are having only one single file, but when we are having the more than one file, then operating system will load into this manifest file, that which file needs to be firstly loaded in a string. So as we can see here, that main activity is a launcher activity. So firstly, when this app will be executed, operating system will firstly execute this main activity. Then after from that main activity, flow will be executed. And this manifest file is used for various purposes, like every permission that we need will be available in this file. Like if we want to use some storage related permission, then we have to mention it. Yeah, then after we can use this permission. So that's how this manifest work. Like if we want to work with some broadcast receiver, then all these things can be managed by here. Like if I want to change the icon of our app, then that is also possible from this application section. And this is our Java folder. And inside, like as we created the package name, this will be in that I would say structure. There will be a file like com dot name, and then after there will be a package name will be followed for the all files. Okay, so firstly let's have a look at main activity dot totally. Okay, let me show you firstly the Gradle files. Okay, so this is a project level Gradle files. All the project level dependency and the project level repository will be listed here. Like there is a total repository, there is a Maven Central. Like this total repository will help us to work with various authentication related work, like checking the device that whether this device is having the play protected play service or not. All that thing will be managed by here. And there is also module level Gradle file. Here we can implement various dependency, like if we want to use some custom text view or some third party tools, or I would say third party API, like for example retrofit or anything related to authentication. If we want to implement Firebase UI, then all the things can be added from here. Like we just need to use implementation keyword, then the dependency of that particular UI or that particular component. Then after Gradle will automatically download that part through the help of internet. And this would be our main activity. So how does this main activity works? Like this would be a default activity, main activity, and this is getting inherited from this apptompet activity. Like if you want to check the code of this apptompet activity, then what we can do is we can just click F4 button, function forward button. from keyboard. Then after it will be redirect us to FTOMPAT activity. This is a SDT's internal activity, so we cannot modify it. But for various learning purpose, we can study this. Like if we want to deeply understand the working of each and every activity, then we can look into this, like how does this set content view works, like how these methods are dating override, and all the things like related to on post resume, on start activity life cycles. So this main activity is using features from this FTOMPAT activity, and there is a on create method inside this main activity. So on create is a basic actual what I would say, it is same like main function, like we saw in a totaling that in a totaling we require main function in order to execute our file. Like it was a starting point for the totaling, but in Android we do not need a main function. Android is totally based on create method. Like this would be the starting point. We can say like that from here. Firstly, when activity gets executed, this on create method will be told all the tasks related to initialization will be managed from here. And there is a set content view. Like firstly, let me explain one thing. So there is a R file in Android. What does this R file do is it stores the ID of each and every component which we use in our Android project. Like how does it work? For example, if I am providing some ID to button, for example, let me show you. Okay, so you just randomly give an ID to this text view, which is text 2. So when I want to access this text view, I need to access this ID. But internally, what Android do is there is a i.java file which stores the ID of each and every component, so that we can use those component by using the that i.java file. So basically, what it do is like here I have given a text to, right? So internally it will provide some integer ID. Like I have used text to, so it would be for readable purpose text to for me. Like if I want to access this text view, then what I need to do is I.id text to, right? But internally it will provide some random ID. It might be anything in terms of number. Like let's say what it doing this when this main activity will be executed, operating system will call this function set content view, and in this set content view this integer value is passed. So as we can see here, like this layout also have some ID, like this layout file have. So to access this, so what we are doing here is we are just passing the layout ID. So it will access this layout from here. So when we execute this main activity, it will load this layout on the screen. So this part would be, this totaling part would be our entirely logic part, and this activity underscore main .html would be our design part. So let's try to run this simple hello world app. Okay, so there is also a drawable folder, which is used to for various drawing or using some shape purposes. Like if I want to provide a particular shape to button, or we want to customize our shape, our custom views, then we can use the concept of drawable. Like if we want to provide some gradient background for our application, or if we our requirements are we want to use some images, we want to use some SVG scalable vector graphics, then we uses the drawable file. And there is also a mipmap folder, which is used to set up icon for our application. And there is a values folder in which there is a $.html. We can define colors for our theme separately instead of every time providing the color for each and every view manually. We can use the concept of $.html in which we can define the colors. Like what we need to do is we just need to provide a name for our color. Then we can define this color. Then we can use this property in a multiple locations by using just this name. And there is also strings.html. Like instead of when our requirements are like we want to use some paragraph or some string multiple locations, instead of typing it everywhere, we can directly put it here. And there is also some other folders which are not by default provided, but as per the requirement we can create it. Like if we want to add some font file, then we can create a font folder. Then there is also option to add a music to our application. Like if we want to play some music MP3 file on a button click, then we can also do that. For that we need to create a folder RAW. I think it would be not available by default. Yes, there is an option like we can create a folder named as Go. Then we can put up our music file in it, and then after we can execute or start that music by using the media player library. Okay, so it's still taking time. Okay, so as we discussed earlier that there are various view groups, like there is relative layout, there is linear layout, like by default Android providers constraint layout. So we will be using the relative layout. For simplicity purpose, we can also use constraint layout, but we are using the relative layout. Now what does this layout do is we can create some views, or I would say some components in this layout in such a way that every components are in some relation or in some relative order. Like if I create in one button in the center, then I can create one text view exactly below to the button by using various properties of the relative layout. Like there is a property layout below. There is also a linear layout, which we can use for the various purpose. Like if we want to display some data in only vertical manner, like there should be items listed in such a way that one text view should be in only one line, and the next text view would be in a next line. Then we can use the linear layout. And there is also a coordinator layout, which we can use for various purposes. Like if we want to implement a snap bar, or if we want to make our layout entirely in a custom way that it can dynamically change its size, then we can use the coordinator layout. So what we are doing here is we will create a simple dice roller app. For that, we will use a relative layout. Okay, so firstly, what we will do is we will add 4 images to our project. I already downloaded all the images. We'll do. We will just copy it and inside our drawable folder, we will paste it. Okay, so now all sheets images are available here. Now what we need to do is we need to access these images based on requirement. Like when user clicks on button, dice should be rolled in such a way that the based on random number, this image should be selected. So what we need to do is firstly we have to set up an image view, which will set the image in a center of this entire layout. Our layout is relative layout, so center of this parent, I would say in center of this screen. So what we will do is firstly we will use image view. This would be a default property for any component like the layout underscore width and layout underscore height. We need width as 100 dp and height is 100 dp. Okay, so now our component is visible on preview. So we want this component in a center of this page. So what we will do is there is a property of the relative layout center in parent. We need to just do this. So now this our component is available in the center of parent layout. Like it will be center in each and every device. There will be no issue like related to responsiveness. Now for just demo purpose, we are directly providing some text to here. Like yeah, I have used dice one. Okay, so let's set some padding to this. Now what we need is we need one button through which user can integrate with the application. We are making it as get content. Like it will take the size of width and height of the component is get content. Like based on the content which is available inside the button, it will take the height and width. Okay, so to take this button below to this image view, we will just use a simple property of the relative layout, which is layout below. Now what we need to do is we have to provide one ID of this component. Like if we want to make this button available below to this image, then we need ID that for which component below we want this button. So firstly we have to provide ID to this image view. Right here we have used image. I will just write image. So now as we can see on the screen that our button is available at below to the image ID component of the ID image. Like we need this button in a center. So then we will use same property layout center event true. Right. So now our basic layout is almost ready. Now what we need to do is we have to integrate with this button. Like when user clicks on this button, this image should be changed. Like currently we have just for the demo purpose we have used first dice. Then when user click on this button, the image should be randomly changed. Like if number is 3, then this should be selected. Number is 4, then this dice underscore 4 should be selected. So now comes the actual logic part. So before going to that, we also have to access this button in our logic part. So we need to provide ID to this button. Okay, so we have provided one ID to this button. Now what we will do is we will create one variable for button to access the click event of the button. As we can see on the screen that as we click enter, uh, the import will be automatically done by Android Studio ID. Like this button is getting imported from this Android.widget.button class. We can also look into this. We can also look into the code of this button like how does this button work? Like click in by F4 keyword, like F4 from keyboard. We can see the code of button that internally how the class button is designed. Like button class is like as we can first point that this file is in a Java. As we discussed in our session 1 that Kotlin is interoperable like Kotlin is integrated with we can say like it is an extension of Java. So it is internally using some Java code. It is again internally compiling or executing or converting into Java. So when we click on this button and when we look into this button code, button is getting the inherited from the text view. So this button class is using some property from a text view. Like here as we saw that we can use some text property. We can also use text style, which is also available in a text view. So we cannot modify the code of this button.java internal file, but we can just look into this just for the learning purpose. So okay, now we have created one button object, right? So now what we need to do is we need to access this button. So we are having this id button, right? So what we will do is firstly we will initialize this button object, then we will use find you by id. There is a method in Android like find you by id through which we can assign a value from that particular id, or we can assign a view from that id to particular object. Like this is also a this view is also from a button class. So what we are doing is we will just provide id. As we can see on the screen that button is listed here. So now what we have done is we have provided the access of this view with using by using this id to this button object. Now what we need to do is we have to manage the delete event on the button. So what we will do is button dot set on delete listener. Okay, so this is a default interface of the button. Now what we need to do is we have to manage the delete event. Like when button gets lit, we will change this or modify this image resource. So we also need access of image view. So first, what we will do is we will create some uh, simple bloat, vain bloat. Before that, let's create one date1 variable. Okay, so when button gets deleted, we have in 6 images, so we will select, we will generate a random number from 1 to 6. We don't know what number is going to be generated. Based on that, firstly, this number will be stored in this random variable. Then what we will do is we will pass this number inside this when load, and based on the input, that image view will be the resource of the image view will be changed. Like firstly, let's initialize this image view. In same way, we will use find you by ID. What was the ID? Image. So we have initialized this image view. Now what we need to do is we have to change this image. Like when the number would be 1, at that time we will set up dice 1. When number is 4, we will select dice 4. There is some internal issues. Okay, firstly, let me clear this project. Okay, many times this kind of situation happens, like there is no issue in a code, but ID shows some error due to some internal issues, like here is wait and see here that dice file, this drawable file is already available here, but still we are seeing some error. Like if I click here, then it is showing me that unresolved reference. So insert some condition. When we do clean project or rebuild the project, test. So now it is yes been done. Okay, so let's execute our application. Okay, so in between the session, if you face any issue or if you are having any doubt, then you can ask. Okay, so the riddle is taking some time. Let's wait for that. There is some issue. Let's again execute this. Okay, so as we can see on the screen that based on random number, this image is getting changed. Like let's then verify it. By printing the simple message so that we can get a better idea that whether the image is changing properly or not. Okay, so as we can see on the screen that based on the image, we are getting the same number on a toast. Okay, so what is toast? Toast is nothing but it is also a kind of component which provides which help us to print some messages which are related to wording or which we want to. It is a kind of notification which we can use for printing the message in some what I would say in a kind of various situation like when update traced or if something related to internet issues, and in such situation we can use toast. Okay, so let's look at the arguments in toast. There is a methods method which help us to create our toast. Like we can also look into the code of this component. Like this would be the internal code of this toast.java file. Here it is using the methods method to create a message. Like we pass the argument in a same way. There is argument passed in this method. And first we are taking application context. So what is application context? Application context is context of the environment, or we can say context of the running the application or activity. Like we are telling this post methods method that this method is getting called inside under the main activity dot total file. So context is used for various purposes, like when you are sending some data, when there is word related to intent or word related to authentication. In such condition, currently we are just having one single file, but when we are having the more than one file, in such condition, we need to tell the system that this particular method or this particular tool is dating from which activity or from which component. So in such condition, we need to use this application context. Instead of passing this application context, what we can do is we can also use main activity. This would also be acceptable. We can also use this, but mostly preferred way is to use this application context. And there would be an argument which would be in form of text, or we can say string. So our number is in form of integer range. So in order to pass in form of text, we just concatenate in it by using the double quote. And this is the length of the toast, that for how much millisecond our toast message should be displayed on the screen. And this is a show method which we can use. So this is how we have developed the dice roller application. So what we have done here is that uh, based on random number, this number would be matching with this thesis. When this dates match, like if this dates match with one first condition, then this would be set as dice image one. Otherwise, if random number is two, then there would be a dice two. If random number is three, then image would be three. If random number is four, then this would be four, and so on. So is there any other way to do this same thing, like by reducing the line of code or reducing the number of comparison? Anyone have idea? Like what else we can do instead of using this comparison based method? Okay, so we can do one other methodology we can apply, like instead of using this window, what we can do is we can use in which we will store integer value of all these images. Like as we discussed earlier, that these images are nothing but we are accessing with the help of uh, that ID, drawable ID. Like if I do control space, then it will show me that it can accept integer ID. So what we had done here is we were just using some integer dot drawable dot dice underscore one. So instead of using this comparison based methodology, we can use some other way. It might be kind of memory usage, like there will be a little bit of memory usage, but we can avoid comparison based statements by using this concept. Like what we can do is we can create simple of type integer. What we need to do is we have to initialize this array. Now we will just add this ID to inside this array list. Now instead of using this concept, what we will do is image view dot set image resource, and in this we will use random minus one. So this will also work in same way, but there will be no comparison. Like what we have done here is geoth index dice one image would be there, ID of the image would be there, tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. So it will start from 0, and our random number is from 1 to 6. So what we are doing here is when number will be 5, it will be pointing into this fourth index. When number would be 4, it will point into third number index. So we can also use this kind of methodology to just to avoid the comparison based statements. Okay, so writing functionality is entirely same, but what we have done is we just avoided the comparison based statements. So this kind of methodology can be useful when we are dealing with multiple number of statements or multiple number of elements. Like when we are having the 100 number of element, what we can do is we can just create one text file. We can directly import it into our project, and then after we can create object of file class. Then by using the for loop, in every iteration, we can just take out ID and store it into a list. Then after we can direct access it instead of using this when and if else block. So sometimes it's better to use some storage instead of doing the comparison based instead of executing comparison based statements. Okay, so our app is almost complete, but still we need some design for this application. Like it still looks normal UI. Like we want to make it more proper or more attractive. So what we can do is we can design some step for this. Like we can modify the background of this button, or we can change or provide some all kind of shape to this button, like by designing a separate drawable for this. So what we will do is we will just create a rounded shape button, view for rounded shape button. So we are creating one drawable file. So by default, the tag would be selector, but this selector tag is usually mostly useful when we are dealing with file, like if I want to change the layout of the application when switch gets deleted. Like for example, let me show you. And the state of the radio button is true. In such condition, if I want to apply particular drawable layout, and when the state of this radio button is false, in such condition I again want to change the layout. So in such condition we can use the concept of selected, but we want to modify the shape of the button. So what we will do is we will use selected, and then after uh, we do not want to use change the background, so we will not use solid. So what we will use is border. Then we will modify the radius. Then after okay, just a minute please. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, so what we are doing there is we are creating one background for button. Okay, so we have created just a simple view. This is a simple view which we can apply for any component. Now what we need to do is we just have to provide that view to this button. Okay, so the gradient is still not available. Okay, let's make it simple. Okay, so this will not actually work. We are just what we are doing this. We have just uh, changed the shape of our button, which was initially rectangle type, which by using the drawable file, which we have made it like a rounded shape. Okay, so it will not actually work in this. Okay, so as we can see on the that's you that that gradient color is that it apply in that that's you. So sometimes it's not work for a button. So for that, firstly we need to modify this property. Then after this will work. Okay, so there is actually no need of now this gradient part. Okay, now what we need is we want to make it more proper instead of just simple design. So what we will do is we will keep up this image view with one tile view. Okay, so button is in center. So Firstly, we have to make it below to the tide view. We will add some margin to all sides. And again, this tide view, weight of this tide view is match parent. So now this image view will follow the property of the tide view, which is parent of this image view. So now what we need to do is we have to identify this image view in the center of tide view. So this property for gravity, which which we will use to make it in a center. Then after we will again add into this tide view so that image view can get some space. Okay, so now let's change the background of this tide view. We add in some corner radius so that it can be more better. And add in some elevation to this tide view. So it's now it looks somehow better than now. Yeah. Then we need some margin, uh, top margin for to maintain some distance. Okay, so earlier this look was like this, so we have now transformed it into this UI. Again, one more thing is missing. Like when we click on this button, there is no much effect. So what we can do is we can add some little bit of ripple effect by using its property. There is one property. Actually, in latest version, Android version, this property is deprecated. But in some old version, this is supported. Like we can add a little normal minor ripple effect to this view. And we can design one more drawable for this. Like if we want to make background is gradient, then what we can do is we can define various colors. We are just selecting the dollar just for randomly. And what we will do is we will change this entire background by defining one property to this. But then this will take some time. Okay, so this looks little bit better. Now what else we can do is we can change this title, like this we want to change the title of this section bar. So what we can do is there is one internal method which we need to use before set content view. Title in which we can provide the title to our okay. So as we can see on the screen, by using we have changed the title of this application by using this set title method. And yes, so it's all about this dice roll application. So by considering today's time, we are keeping this till this, and I have one more thing to show you. Just a minute, please. Okay, so firstly, let me run this application. Okay, so what we have used here is we are using here shared preference, which provides us a unique way to store the user preference on it is a kind of storage structure which we can use to store the user preference. Like in many applications we see like there is a switch on from dark mode to light mode. All this how happens here by using the concept of shared preference. They uses the, like for example, if we do clear data, then our all data is related to authentication, sign in, login, that's clear. So that all data is stored with the help of shared preference. So how does this shared preference work? First, what we do is we create a object of this shared preference class. Then what we need to do is we have to create a file name for this object, like which kind of file we want to open. then we need an editor in which we will edit our file, text of the file, right? Then after, what we are doing here is we are just assigning this variable. There is a date set preference construct, I would say method with where we have created a file name is demo, and we are passing certain argument as a mode private, which means that this file will only be accessible for only your app. Like if other app want to access the file which is stored inside the application, then other application cannot access this file. That's why we have used this mode as private. Then what we are doing here is now our file is created. Just assume that our file with the name of demo is created. Now we want to work on it. So what we need to do is we have to take this object and we have to call this edit method. Then we are assigning this editing access to this editor object. Then what we are doing here is when there is some text when button is clicked, and in such situation when button gets clicked, the editor will take some input, and edit text will take some input, and the input which is taken by input edit text will be stored inside this demo file. For that we are using this apply method, and as this file to store this file, we don't know that which kind of file is that in storage. So to we need to specify every time that whether we want to store the data in form of boolean, or it is a put string, or it is an integer kind of value, it is kind of string. So for that we are using this put string method. Okay, so let me firstly run this application. Okay, so this is our edit text in which we are taking some input. Is user click on save data, the data would be saved in this text view. And the main benefit of this save preference is that even after closing the app, the data will be stored inside the app till you clear the data. And what we are doing here is we are just accessing the data from edit text and store it into this editor object. And after this storing data in a demo file, what we are doing is we are then when app dates open, when app is in on create, text view will again fetch the data from the file. If app is getting open first time, then there will be nothing. So we are just we need to always, it's rule of set preference that we need to provide some default value to this. Right, so as we can see on the screen that the data from the edit text is stored here. Even if I clear this app, and when we are then open this application, just okay. So when we are then open this application, the data would be there. So this is how we can use this shared preference. Okay, so that's it for today from my side. If anyone have any doubt, then they may ask.
Thank you, Jeet, for your valuable and mind blowing session. Guys, if you have any doubt, then let the Jeet know. Else, we are good to leave. I think there is no doubt. So
What?
let us call it a day. Thanks all for joining.